this will be the second and final uh, video in regards to this DID forums or didvids.net forum. So I decided to wait a few days to let the dust settle and to get some more material to talk about. I wanted to see what was going to happen after that video got out and everyone had a chance to watch it and comment. And I wanted to see what was going to happen in this forum from it. As I stated in the last video, not a very active website. Just from what I have gathered after watching it, after seeing what's happening, there's about 5 or 6 people that are a part of this website that I guess this genre, if you will. Well, first of all, there needs to be a clear-cut distinction of what's going on here, because the genre I am in, the damsel in distress genre of crime fiction, is not what these people are in. You have to understand this. There is this large collection of bondage lovers and S&M lovers and really a whole lot of perverts that are really corrupting the genre in which I am a creator in. Most people that are watching here on YouTube that are fans are true fans of this genre. The people who have funded me on Patreon, the people that are receiving the digital productions, they know and understand the difference between what I am making and what a lot of these people are either making or into or trying to promote. And they're really trying to cross the two over and really make the claim that any woman that's in bondage is a damsel in distress. Well, let me tell you something. If there's a woman who has her elbows tied together or her knees tied together, or in almost all cases, with a very rare exception, more than one layer of tape on her mouth, or if her tits are tied up with rope below and above her tits, that is not a damsel in distress. That is just a slut who likes getting tied up. A slut that's getting tied up for some smut video. That's not a damsel in distress. So if you see these photos on DeviantArt, this person, whoever's making these photos, is not doing what I am doing. They possess no real, it's funny. You see all these scenes I've uploaded on the Kidnapper's Corner, all these shows and movies. You've never seen. Could you imagine for a second if in that episode of 24, those 2 episodes of season 1 and 24, if Alicia Cuthbert's elbows were tied together, if her knees were tied together, if her boyfriend went ape shit with the tape and put like 20 layers of tape on her mouth, you know how ugly she would look, and just what a trashy ass production that would be? Of course that would never happen, because the people who are making this have a sense of class and dignity and skill and realism, and understand that no kidnappers are ever going to tie someone's elbows together. It's just it's overkill smut shit that pisses me off. People that are doing this and making this, that are trying to like lump themselves in with me. You're not doing what I'm doing. So just don't talk about us in the same breath. Back to this forum. When you talk about people that make these things and whatnot, there really is a lot of ego. I have a great sense of pride in what I've created and the amount of time that's gone into what I make. And everyone here sees that. Everyone here that's a fan, the people who support me, see just how much I have done here. I've had countless compliments. People call and say, without question, I'm head and shoulders above anybody else who has ever even attempted to make anything like this. If you look at my channel, if you look at the things I've created, and from day one, if you look at my first live action production, you look at my first digital production, from the first to the next one, and unfortunately I haven't been able to make any more live action productions, but we'll get to that in a little bit. If you look at the first one to the last one, there's always such an improvement anyone reading the digital productions knows how much I improve on each thing that I do, that I'm a perfectionist, that it never stops for me trying to improve. If you look at the channel layout now as compared to last year, you can see such a difference in everything. A constant improvement. I'm only 18 months in, and we're gonna get to something else here in a little bit. So there's such a big egos on here, and everyone thinks that they're that's in this. You know, people that upload scenes and people who comment on boards and whatnot. Everyone wants to be the person, you know, that thinks that they're so good when it comes to all this stuff. Yet most of these people aren't making anything. Most of these people are just making smut when they make something, and they have no real skill. They have no writing skill. They do not possess that talent that I do to be able to use bondage to tell stories that actually mean something. We're going to get to, I'm going to discuss some more things that are on here. But right through here, okay, if you go back to the very first page, if you go to the didvids.net forums, the Remember This Guy thread, it has 6 pages now. If you go to the first page here, the first comment, I think I mentioned this before, so that's what Todd's living room looks like. So apparently there's this guy named Todd. I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but
And shut your pie hole. I know a creep when I see one. I think I'm looking at one right now.
yeah. Todd's 46 years old. I'm 30, by the way, in case you didn't know. Todd's 46 years old, and Todd has been, I guess, a filmmaker for about 20 years. He has a YouTube account that's over a decade old. And Todd, for some reason, I think this was a joke that somebody wrote this. Probably because Todd has a really big ego. Todd really thinks highly of himself. So I guess because of that, somebody thought maybe Todd could be me, I guess. If you go to Todd's YouTube channel, though, you will certainly see that he's definitely not me. Put it that way. So this guy finally shows up, and there's a lot of comments on here, and I'm going to read, you know, I think I read some from the first several pages before, but let's see. I'm going to, you know, hold on a second. I'm going to find the first response this Todd guy wrote. I think it's on the 4th page, maybe. More about the ceiling. Maybe it's the 5th page. Yeah, so this guy, okay, here's what this guy wrote. Okay, I'll say it. What is with these guys like this being so damn full of themselves? Coming from this guy, when you see the kind of things this guy writes, with him accusing someone else of being full of themselves, it's quite humorous. It's what used to drive me nuts about Goots, especially with the whole, and he's talking about Ray Goots, who is the owner of Game Over Girls. Just a little bit about that real quick. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Ray Goots. I don't particularly like his work. I don't watch his channel. I've watched some of the videos. It's not for me, but and we're not in the same genre of what we're making. But I have a lot of respect for him because he has worked his ass off for about at least 5 years, over 5 years making live productions on YouTube. You know, he has quite a big following. He's raising about $1,500 a month right now on Patreon, which is a lot more than I've ever raised per month. And he needs it because he spends money on costumes, etc., hiring people, which I'm working on to get my live action productions back. But I have a tremendous amount of respect for how much he's worked and the fact that he hasn't given up and he continues to, you know, grow and be successful at what he's doing. It's not easy. It's not easy to get started on YouTube and create a following. You know, I'm 18 months in. I've done a hell of a job as well, and I have many, many things planned. But we'll keep going here. So about Ray Gooch's, especially with the whole "I'm not into bondage" line. I'll give Gooch this. At least some of the stuff didn't have bondage. Looking at your page, I'm not seeing any non-bondage material. Well, Todd, here's a photo from my 4th digital production. I don't see any bondage there. Um, People who read my digital productions and see the pictures understand what I am making. They understand that nobody else has ever made what I am making. They get it. Let's continue here. The "I'm a Ferrari, everyone else is a Honda" routine is especially laughable. A simple analogy that anybody could understand that has now turned into people on this thread talking about cars. So, yes, brains are not too sharp here. Everyone else is a Honda routine is especially laughable. No, Sparky, you're a Ford Escort claiming to be a Ford Mustang is what you are. Or let me do an impersonation of Todd. No, Sparky, you're a Ford Escort claiming to be a Ford Mustang is what you are. That's probably a better impersonation of what Todd would actually sound like saying it if you watch him in any of his videos. I've watched your original videos, not the re-edits of Hollywood movies, but the sticky situation stuff itself. They are no better than anything else out there. They're a better shot than anything than Gooch, Gary Whitson, and kind of... Look, he demeans somebody else, and as common as that asshole as or myself has done over the years. They aren't better lit, they aren't better acted, they aren't better in any way, shape, or form, so come off the pedestal, pal. As for nobody spends 200 hours doing what I do. Okay. I made the Kidnap production and the Ambush production in roughly 1 day each. 1 day for each one. And of course they're not all that high quality productions because for the most part I shot almost all of them with this GoPro here. Try shooting with a GoPro. Then I got this really nice camera back here, which I only got to use a little bit. And I have not made another live production since, but anyone who watched the Ambush production knows how much better it was than the Kidnap production because I'm always improving. Had I got to shoot and really get into filmmaking this last year, I'd just be blowing your ass out of the water, and I think everybody knows that. It's not even up for discussion, but yeah, we'll just keep going here. The 200 hours were spent on my 4th digital 3-part story, which is 32,500 words long, has 100 custom-made photos. Custom-made photos, not fakes. There's some guy on here, oh, his fakes are bad. He makes bad fakes. Comparing me to some smut deviant art people who add a face to a body and then put a bunch of fucking pieces of tape on it or something, some sloppy ass shit. As you saw from the photo I already showed, I make whole custom photos. I either take a picture of a background myself or use Google Images for a background and then move all the other parts in and create photos that match the words I'm writing. It's essentially a picture book for adults. Everybody loved picture books as a kid, but you've never really seen one as an adult that really did anything. So I've taken the best parts of real writing and storytelling and then added these awesome custom-made pictures that everybody loves, which I have improved on so much since the first story, and anyone who's read the 4th one will tell you that. Everything's always an improvement. So let's keep going here. So I don't even really consider myself to be a filmmaker. I mean, I technically am, but I'm a writer, buddy. My writing kills you. And anyone who's reading my work will tell you that. I don't want to brag about that, but I am a highly skilled writer. You are not. So, yeah, I'm a writer who could easily continue to grow in filmmaking once I get my female co-host. and actress hired. We're going to continue to talk about that later. Um, and here he goes, continues to brag about himself. As for me, the amount of time I spent writing, casting, buying props and costumes, making or modifying. Yes, filmmaking is tough. You've made some movies. Okay, he's going to keep going here. Something called The Dangers of Deborah, which sounds like porn, but we'll just ignore that. Easily exceeded your 200 hours. I'm sure that making that live action production like that did exceed 200 hours. Again, there's a big difference between a digital production and live action production. I made my live action productions in 1 day each virtually. The ambush production was 2 days, but it could have been 1 day had I not had a telephone pole taken out from in front of my house early in the morning on the first day and the power went out. It should have been a long 1 day production. Okay, that being said, so I just spent a day making my productions, and people pay $25 for it. Yeah, and you spent, probably months and months making yours, so you shouldn't even be comparing the two. And then he brags about how he's on Amazon and IMDb, which anybody can get on IMDb, just saying. And I guess his stuff's for sale on Amazon and DVDs. I'd imagine nobody is buying it. I know one of the movies had like a $6,000 budget, according to Internet Movie Database. He must have ate shit on that production because there's no way he made $6,000 back in sales from that. I'm highly profitable on all of my work. It's been a great success over 18 months. And yeah, like I said, profitable. Everything I ever do will be profitable. I'm never going to eat cost on a production like that. Two of my stories can be adapted into scripts on extremely low budgets. And those I do have plans for, as well as other short film productions. But again, this guy's a guy that's made movies. All he's doing is trying to talk about my 2 live action productions that I made last year in an attempt to somehow put me down as if that's all I do is just make those 2 productions. Obviously, everyone who knows, who's been a patron, knows that there's so much more in what I've created. And then he goes ahead and decides to say, "You're a Ferrari. Ha, guess that makes me a Rolls Royce." No, actually, according to your Internet Movie Database page, you haven't made anything since like 2010. And there's been 2 links to your production company, Cliffhanger Productions. Cliffhangerproductions.org, cliffhangerproductions.com. Both are available for purchase from GoDaddy. So actually, you're not a Rolls Royce. You are a Saturn because you are out of business. So yeah, you're out of business. Sorry. I don't mean to rub that in, but your movies must not have been very successful, or else you'd still be in business and your URLs wouldn't be broken. But let's see. So yeah, I believe he continues to talk shit. Then he's stalking the first part of this video. After he had already watched it, he came back again for no good reason to watch it, and then found a comment I made about him. So he's probably been refreshing that video every day. And someone wrote, "Todd versus Kidnapper." Okay. Once again.
I know a creep when I see one. I think I'm looking at one right now.
This guy's weird. Okay. So someone wrote something, and I wrote, well, there's obviously quite a few people out there who wish they were able to innovate and create the way that I have over the last 18 months. There are a few failed filmmakers on that website like Todd, and quite a few people who wish they had the skill to make real DID productions and not just smut bondage junk. No truer words were ever said. The amount of people who claim to be fans of this genre and then make trashy shit smut with bound elbows and bound knees. Again, this garbage you know, that, and then they claim that it's a damsel in distress production when it's a cheesily, shitty acted, just smut shit. So he replies back, failed? Failed, you say? Yes, I do say failed because you're providing broken website links. Your website's out of business. You can't afford to even get your website running. So yeah, now I don't have a website other than YouTube because I don't need one yet. But you don't. You have a YouTube page too. We'll get to that. I might point out that I have done something no one else has done since the 1950s. Here we go. Buckle up. And I will match even my lazy man. I am on Amazon, and I said that again. Are you? You already did this. I shot short films with real actors and real scripts. Have you? Actually, the girl who played Shotgun Shelly in my second production, she went to AMDA. Graduated from AMDA. That's the American Music and Drama Association. Some expensive ass school in New York City. And yes, I paid her, and I made a huge profit on the production, which I'm going to say is more than you can say since you're out of business. When you accomplish what I've accomplished, you can brag. What have you accomplished? I'm trying to figure it out. You are just upset because I called you out on your nonsense. You have accomplished nothing that any other bondage producer or photo manipulator has accomplished. Still again, just a bondage production. Oh, Todd. Oh, Todd. Ugh. And then I told him he'd get this addressed. Let's go look at Todd's YouTube channel. This is going to be fun. TJ Moore, Dark Avenger. Todd has had this YouTube account for over a decade. Cliffhangerproductions.org. Click on it. Loading. Wait a second, did Todd get his website back? I was going to buy it on GoDaddy the other day. It's not loading. Oh, site can't be reached. Oh, for a second I thought maybe Todd bought his website back. No, it's a broken link. Yeah. So on it, he has this crappy looking banner that says, the only company to do more than one full-length cliffhanger serial since 1956. And then there's a picture with a guy and a really ugly girl in the banner. So, Todd, have you ever thought maybe the reason no one's made a cliffhanger serial since 1956 is because nobody wants to see a fucking cliffhanger serial? Have you ever thought about this? Are you suggesting that nobody could make one of these other than you? Do you really think that? You're the only person able to make this shit? No, nobody wants to fucking see this. So that's why nobody's made one. Jesus Christ. This guy has 282 subscribers. He has had this channel for north of a decade, and he has less than 300 subscribers. I have had my channel for 18 months, and I am about to hit 5,000 subscribers. So, Todd, tell me again how you have accomplished more than me and that there's actually some kind of audience for your work, that somehow people actually like what you are making. Are you kidding me? 282 subscribers, Todd, tells me that there is just not a demand for your work. Nobody knows who you are, and you may need to try harder. Now, so he dogs me, talks about what I've done, and there's a lot of people that do that, and really, Todd, all I can say to you is this.
The press were just wondering what it feels like to be outsold, outclassed, outquaffed, and generally outdone in every way.
Oh, Todd. Well, Todd, I think you're finished now. I don't think there's anything left to say about you. Yeah, so that's all for Todd. Now let's go back to this and check out what came from Clean World. Now, two people here, Jaunty, who gave the first question, and Clean World, both of which I decided to send Adventures in Babysitting to as a free gift. For the second time to Clean World. And for the second time, he hasn't read it. You have not read it. I know this because if you did, you have to email me back to finish it. You have not read it. Neither has Jaunty. So I decided, because people were trying to talk shit about my work without reading it, I'd let them read it, and they haven't read it, and they're still talking shit. Here's from Clean World. Send him a mail so he will send you one of his short stories. All I can say is it doesn't seem much different than any other bondage stories. You wouldn't know because you haven't read it. Again, and it's not a bondage story. This could be what you're missing. If you would just get your head around that this isn't some smut bondage story, maybe you'd be able to sit back and enjoy the work. Enjoy the story, but you haven't read it. And you may not have an interest in reading it because it's not smut. But we'll continue to we'll keep going here. The main focus seems to be on the writing style, packing it nicely and not writing it in a retarded way. Well, that's true. It is actually properly written, unlike most of these creeps who write smut. But that is probably the least bit of the things that separate my work from other people's work. The hours he spent is whatever. And I don't care about Brian. I don't know Brian. I don't give a shit. His website did a lot of good. But I don't care about these bondage nuts pretending to be DID fans. It just pisses me off. Go draw photos of elbows and knees tied together. Anyway, and bound tits too, because the tits might attack the kidnapper. So you have to tie the tits up. Makes a lot of sense. So maybe you should actually read the work before you talk about it. Now we're going to talk about what actually separates my digital productions versus everything else that anyone has ever made. There's two real things that separate the two. If you go to my channel page and you go to the About section, because I'm actually smart enough to make an About section, unlike most of these idiots who get their accounts closed. Sticky Situations is a tribute to the damsel in distress in cinema and television. We are an entertainment brand that produces and distributes our original crime fiction, live action productions, and short stories. Crime fiction. There's no mention of bondage here. In addition to that, we also run the Kidnapper's Corner, which highlights and reviews the best scenes ever made for mainstream audiences. And blah, blah, blah. Go to the disclaimer. Sticky Situations is a fictional show and is for entertainment purposes only. You know what? I need to change this right now. It's supposed to say entertainment brand. Come on, sucker. Gotta click edit layout. Sticky Situations is a fictional brand. Just watched me update the page live. Done. And it is for entertainment purposes only. We do not promote violence against anyone. Notice how we do not promote violence. There's no mention on here of sex or sexual content of any kind because my work has no focus on sex. That is the major difference between what I have done and what anybody else in this genre has ever done. That is the key. I made sure it says we do not promote violence because I create scripted violence. Just like professional wrestling, I use bondage to make scripted violent productions. Scripted violence to tell stories. There's very minimal any kind of what you would consider to be physical contact or anything like that in any of my stories. And the people who read them know this, and that's not what real fans of this genre understand, that they like the violence part of it. There's nothing about sex in the content. That's what separates me from any of these people on DeviantArt and these people that have written these stories. These crap smut productions and women with their knees and elbows tied together. That is what separates me above all else, is what the work is actually about. Violence. And the second major thing that differentiates me between anybody else that I have seen, the productions, live action, whatever, is that I write, well, first of all, in my live action productions, I work with hot girls. I will always only work with hot girls. That's one of the reasons you haven't seen new live action productions lately, is because I am not going to commit and pay anybody and sell, if you will, to my fans girls that do not meet a certain standard. The women that Todd has worked with do not meet my standard. If you have read any of my productions, you know that the girls that are written about, that are seen in the pictures, are top notch. They are homecoming queens, prom queens, cheerleaders, basketball players, volleyball players, softball players. You know, Todd, all the girls you fantasized in high school that you couldn't get, not some fat chick smoking in the parking lot. Yeah, that's who I write about. Hot, young girls, late teens, early 20s. That's who all the characters are in my creations. That's who they'll always be. These are girls that I have personally dated, been good friends with, been best friends with, almost dated. These are the kind of girls that my audience wants to see, not trash. The kind of girls, the two girls that did the Ambush productions, they would never make a commercial bondage video. They would never be in that smut. And neither would the girls that I write about in the productions. They're all Alicia Cuthberts and Jessica Albas. The hot young girls. That's who I make stories about. That's what separates me. Is that I have a certain level of standards for what I make. And I will not bend on those standards. And people who support me should not want me to bend on those standards. If it means waiting 2 more years to find somebody to make what we want. They should be sticking around, no pun intended. And most of them understand it and get it. Now, I almost had a couple girls this past year. Oh, God. One college volleyball player, so hot. And this girl that I almost used to date that told me she was going to do it, and then, whatever. So, yes. 33 minutes I've been talking now. And obviously this is the last I'm going to talk about this forum. I am not even going to look at this forum. In fact, I'm closing it out right now. There's nothing left there to be seen for me. It's just going to be a whole bunch of crap written on there again.
The only way this bill could be more cartoonishly evil.
My channel trailer. People that aren't going to read the work because they're not real fans of the damsel in distress. People that are going to talk shit because of this. And I'm not going to waste my time with it. People that are still going to show up, oh, he makes bondage. Oh, it's just a bondage production. I'm not even going to just stay in your own bubble. You're not a fan of this work, so why you're even watching my videos, I don't know. There's plenty of adult websites for you to join that maybe will pique your interest, but you're not going to find it from me. Also, when I do get a functioning website that works, unlike Todd, There's not going to be a button you click that says, I understand I'm 18 or older to get in, because you don't have to be 18 or older to enjoy my work. You could take my digital productions to any high school English class, I would imagine. Some of the teachers may not like some of the curse words used at times by one of the characters, but there's nothing in there that would be construed as inappropriate even for a high school English class. So, yeah, there's no 18 plus to get into my stuff, as there is with some people who claim to be damsel in distress writers, but they're not. Again, it's just adult erotica smut. Nobody's ever done what I do. People understand this. You don't. That's on you. Again, there's a lot of people who wish that they had the writing talent that I did and that they put this mask on years ago. There's a lot of people, and here's the thing: if anybody ever does try to put a mask on like this, or try to do anything even remotely similar to what I'm doing, people will instantly call them a ripoff of me. I have this market cornered. There's no way in. Anyone who ever tries to do what I'm doing will be labeled as a ripoff, a second-rate kidnapper, second-rate sticky situations brand. Every time. So, come at me. Give it your best shot. And that is all.
Yeah, and you wish you thought of it. Yeah, and you wish you thought of it.
Yeah, and you wish you thought of it.